Welcome to GESScast. Tune in and listen as we speak to global education experts about the latest trends, challenges and stories that matter.
Hello and welcome to another GESScast episode. We're delighted to be joined by Dr Helen Wright today. Dr Helen is a highly regarded global leader with an energetic career spanning 3 decades in UK and international education. She holds several board director roles and she recruits international school leaders as an associate of LSE Education. She currently works with schools, leaders and companies in countries including the UAE, China, India, the Netherlands and the UK. So Helen, how are you? How have you been? And how's the academic year going so far?
Oh, well, so many questions just to start with. What a pleasure to be here. It is. It's so lovely to be able to have the chance to chat. So everything is going really well at the moment. I'm really enjoying it. But you see, when people ask that question, how are things going? I do think it reflects people's state of mind and how they respond. And we have the opportunity to make how we are responding. We have the opportunity to say, actually, yes, I am having a great time. It is all going really well. Or we have the opportunity not to say that. Now, things are going really well because I feel this past year, particularly, I've been on a journey of exploration. I've been going to places where I haven't been, partly because of the pandemic, or I haven't been for a time. And I've been connecting with so many other people. And it feels so impactful to be able to do so much of my work in coaching leaders, recruiting leaders, working with boards in so many different parts of the world. And I really, really enjoy that. It's a privilege to be able to do that. It feels like an honor to do that. I know that I'm creating that by ensuring that I say yes to things and that I go out and do things. And that's what I really would like us all to be doing as leaders, in schools, encouraging young people, children, our staff, our boards, everybody to be able to say, I can do this, let's do it. And yes, to be an answer to your question, it's going great.
That's really great to hear. It's a very positive start and I'm glad the year's going well. I guess leading on from what you said, how have you found the shift going from pre and post COVID? So it's obviously affected everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And there are still strong elements of the impact of COVID out there. It's rare that I go a week without hearing the word COVID. Actually, it was a trauma for us all as a human race, and that had an impact in schools because we've got several years worth of children who this has impacted, and we have to make sure that we keep supporting them and supporting staff as well. Now, of course, staff, it was so interesting immediately after the pandemic because there was a big movement in leaders and staff. There were many people who felt, I need to go home. I need to go back to where I came from, wherever that was, and be there. Equally, there's been this move in people saying, life is short. I recognise that now, and I'm going to go out. So there's sort of a migration of leaders and teachers around the world, which is fascinating to watch, that's there. But we're all conscious of it. I still see that in terms of national agendas, there are many more boundaries around countries than there used to be, and that I hope we will be able to work through, because if we're trying to educate our young people to make sure that they are really global citizens, then we need to diminish those boundaries, not enhance them.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And leading on from that goes quite nicely into my next question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing school leaders at the moment?
If there's ever a day where a school leader says, oh, I don't have a challenge today, then I don't think that's realistic at all. I think there are so many challenges. What's the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge is what it's always been, which is that a young child comes into your school, and as a school leader, you are responsible for helping to develop and shape that child into a decent adult who's able to contribute, lead, contribute, and grow with the world as well, and have responsibility. And that, if it were really easy to do that, everybody would have done it. And we're doing it
Yeah.
all the time. I find that my work, when I'm working with leaders particularly, is helping them imagine how they can do that better, how they can make sure that that works for every single child. And that's the biggest challenge. Oh, of course, there are loads of other challenges as well. There are regulations, there are teacher shortages, there are all sorts of things going on. But that's the kind of the central challenge for us all. It has been and continues to be. And the more we know about children, about how the brain works, about how cultures interact, the more we know about it, in a sense, we've got more information, but it's also more complex. So it's a glorious challenge, and one that I don't think will be finishing anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you tell us a bit more about the coaching you do for leaders in education?
Oh, yes. That really is a privilege to be able to coach leaders all over the world. And I came into coaching actually because, as a school leader myself, I had a coach, and I didn't realize what the impact of having a coach would be until I had a coach. And then I began to feel so passionately about it that that's why I've grown and developed in my own coaching. And it's an opportunity as a coach to walk alongside somebody, to challenge and support, and knowing that they have the answers, or they have the capacity to go and find the answers. And you're there simply to help them see things that they can't see just yet. You're not there to tell them the answers. You're there to draw out what's already there and empower them. And it's a very powerful process, coaching. It really genuinely is transformational when people engage in it, because it shifts how you see the world. So if we can get leaders in those positions in schools to be reflecting themselves on how they view the world, how they see things, then think what an impact that has on everyone else in the school. Think the impact on the other senior leaders, on the staff, on children, on parents, on the wider community. So that's amazing to be able to have that impact there. And I enjoy it because it feels so impactful.
It must be a very rewarding feeling to see people excelling and delivering to their students because of, your coaching and your impact.
I certainly feel very invested in all my
Yeah.
coachees, and I always take time before somebody comes to me as a potential coachee, because usually people are recommended because somebody thinks, actually, do you know what, Dr. Helen's the person for you, and whatever it is that you need. So I always spend time with that person, just checking what it is that they're looking for in coaching, what it is that they hope to gain from it, and then we can sketch out what that might look like in terms of the amount of time we might spend together, the analysis we might do before, and the data gathering we might do beforehand, and what their goals might be. And yes, being able to get that to a point where you can see that happening, that I feel almost very proud of my coachees as well, for where they're going and how they're developing. Definitely very rewarding.
Oh, that's really lovely to hear. Now, I understand that you're a strong advocate for women in education. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I suppose I'm an advocate for everybody in education. I mean, but inevitably, but given where we are still in the world, where women leaders are underrepresented in education, and it's still harder for women to become leaders at any level and to have their voices heard, then inevitably I'm going to be drawn towards supporting and helping leaders. So I do coach a lot of women leaders, certainly. And this is about helping people discover their own voice and their own ability to be able to communicate with others and recognize where other people are coming from, because we do live in still a very gendered society, and in all sorts of different parts of the world, and at different levels of awareness. So what is it that as a woman leader in education, international education, what is it that you need to develop and understand about yourself and about how other people might interact with you in order to be able to take everybody further forward? Because leadership it's not a sole activity. We do lead ourselves, obviously, but actually it's about leading others. So that deeper understanding you have of yourself and your ability to be able to articulate that and understand where all these unconscious biases come from, the more you're able to do that, then the better a leader you can be. And it's not about setting people up in opposition to one another. It's about helping people walk alongside one another. So understand ourselves, understand where other people are coming from, try and work out between us what we don't know. Or there's a huge amount of work to be done in there, particularly for women leaders and for male leaders about women leaders as well.
Yeah, I really like what you said there about it's not about the opposition. You know, it's working alongside each other. I think that's such an important thing to recognise with, you know, women in education or, you know, female leaders and stuff. It's not women against men. It's we're working alongside each other and it's building everyone up.
Absolutely. Together we really are all stronger. And the world faces so many complex challenges that it requires us all to be able to work together and to understand where other people are coming from. So I think that's a lot of the work. Going back to the coaching, there's a lot of work in coaching about that self-awareness. And then when you have greater self-awareness, you realize, funny enough, that other people are different, and we can help ourselves understand them, and we can help them understand themselves as well.
Yeah, because everyone's facing different battles. I mean, one that is shared, I guess, among a lot of women is trying to balance work life and home life, particularly when people want to start a family. I know you've done that yourself. Could you tell us a little bit more about your experience, or also your experiences with some of the women that you've coached as well, perhaps?
Because it does take a village to raise a child. I've believed that for a long, long time, and it is absolutely true. And people talk about can women have it all? They talk about that, don't they, still? But it's just, in actual fact, we can all have it all. We just can't have it all at the same time. So we have to, and that would be physically impossible. So everybody's journey through that has to be one of choice. I love my children. I have 3 children. I love them absolutely dearly, and I'm so proud of them. I'm proud of spending time with them. I'm proud of going away from them as well, to show them that I can travel and do things and bring back to them and support them in so many ways. But it's because that we're within a framework of support, and above all, love. It's that unconditional love that we need to have for our children, and I think that bubbles out into all sorts of other things that we do. So doing our best, armed with the best information we have, bearing in mind it's not going to be easy all of the time. And I operate on the principle that I aim to be a gloriously imperfect mother, as well as imperfect at other things, but I'll keep striving to do my best.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's all about trying.
Yes.
No one can reach that perfect status. Now, this question might be hard to answer because I know you love the work you do and love working in education. But if you could pinpoint, or maybe a few things, what do you enjoy most about working in education?
So yes, that is a difficult question, because I try to operate each day on the fact that I'm going to enjoy today most, or whatever it is that I'm doing. So, and that there's a discipline associated with that. It's not a wishy-washy thought. I do think that we create happiness, we create joy by really focusing in on it. So even when it's hard, we've got to focus in on that. So what do I enjoy about it? I absolutely enjoy impact, and the impact that others have. And I think particularly as I've gone on in education, when you first start out as a teacher, you think of the impact on the child in front of you in your class. And then you move to middle management positions, you move to senior management positions, leadership roles, and you see the wider and wider impact. What I'm doing now, working across schools, working across leaders everywhere, is to have moments of impact which will filter into other bits. So that impact, that sense of, if we have the right values together and the shared values, we can make a genuine difference. And it needs all sorts of different people to work together to do that, and you need a humility around that and your role in it. So I enjoy that very much. I will say that I enjoy variety, and the variety, not just of my role, but the variety that exists within education. It's such a varied profession, and you could say that ideally, as a world, we're all learners. So there is education, learning everywhere, and we can contribute to it in all sorts of different ways. And I think that in education, being able to take charge of that and craft the variety that works for you would be something that I'm always encouraging people to do. People operate in different spectra of needs, of stability through to extreme entrepreneurship, and let's try something completely different today. So there's a balance then, finding your place within that where you feel comfortable and in your zone, your optimal zone. Brilliant, but it's different for everybody. So that is another thing that's good. I just like making a difference. That's what I really like, and that's what it comes down to. Do my best to do that.
Yeah, that's so lovely. I think it's so hard as a child, and even, growing up, being a young adult, you just can't predict where your life's going to take you, no matter what plan you've got. I think that's such a nice core message of, you just want to make a difference. You don't necessarily know in 10 years time what I'm going to be doing. I'm in my mid-20s, and my friends and I already say, like, gosh, when we were 15, we didn't think we'd be doing this job and what we're doing. You just can't predict these things. But I guess if you could think back to a young Dr. Helen, what's some advice you would give to a younger self, whether that's, teenage years or, as a young adult, what advice would you give to yourself?
So I would say, really try and understand and be able to articulate your values as soon as you can. So when I look back and I see everywhere I've come from has come from so many strong values that were embedded at an early stage in my childhood, but I wouldn't necessarily have been able to articulate those at that point. And I've grown much, much better at articulating them now. When you can articulate that, you can have a clearer plan. So I look back, and many of the things I feel as though I've done on instinct, I've done because it's felt like the right thing. Now I can explain why. So to have had greater confidence around the why at an earlier stage would have been useful. But in practical terms, I think finding out the why is part of the journey. So maybe what I would actually have said is, you will find out your why as you go through. Trust it and enjoy the journey, and just always make sure that you're trying to make the world a better place, and it will be fine. Maybe that's what I would have said.
Yeah, that's nice advice. Like you said, I think sometimes you just sort of have to push through it, don't you? You don't, even if you could tell yourself all these wonderful things that's going to happen and, live your life like this, it is the journey. You've got to have those failures, mistakes.
Oh, totally.
All these things make you who you are, and they put you in the positions that you've ended up in.
Yes, exactly.
So that's important to not miss those things as well. Absolutely.
There's something that I often say with people who are maybe feeling cross with themselves about something, or say, I want to change this, and we explore it. We sort of say, well, how has it served you well? Because some things that seem very negative also serve us well. They may not be serving us as well at the moment, so let's explore that. But everything, we are a combination of everything we've experienced and been through. So we can't deny that. We have to engage with it. So yes, it's an exciting journey, and it shouldn't be easy all the time. That wouldn't be very exciting, would it?
No, it wouldn't. I always say, like, if it's a cloudy, rainy day, like, you need those days, so you appreciate the sunny days more.
There you go. Sure. Fount of wisdom. There you are. There you
Unless you live in Dubai and it's sunny all the time. And then you just get to enjoy it all year round.
Apart from under the storms.
Yeah, true. I know, I'm very jealous. It's a lot nicer there than here right now. But yeah, it does make you so much more appreciative of those times. So yeah, you've got to go through it all.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're really excited to have you speaking at the upcoming GESS Leaders in Education Summit in Saudi Arabia. That's taking place on the 6th and 7th of May in Riyadh. And would you be able to give us a little bit of insight into the sessions that you'll be discussing at the summit?
Well, I'm very much looking forward to going, because actually it'll be my first time in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Although I've coached a lot of people there, I know a lot of people there, and been involved in schools for a time. But actually, to be able to go in person, I think there's when you land somewhere, you are somewhere, you can understand it better, and I think that that's exactly what we need to make sure that we do in so many ways. So I'm very excited to be going. In terms of the sessions, I'm going to be talking about how to build a good leadership team, school leadership team, drawing on a number of different elements connected with coaching, actually, and connected with the work that I do with leadership teams, which is helping them understand where they're coming from as individuals, what their purpose is as a team, and not just as a set of individual people with particular responsibilities, and just sort of exploring and moving that out a little bit more into what can we do to shape a team rather than just work with a team. So I'm going to be talking about that. I think also we're going I'm going to be chairing a couple of panels. So we're going to be talking about a bit more about leadership in one of those panels, and there'll be other things on the agenda too. And I really enjoy chairing panels, because when you're chairing that, you're having the opportunity to bring together a range of different perspectives and allow people to express them and in a conversation effectively. And people like listening to conversations. They like listening to people sharing experiences. And I think the best panels are ones where there's almost learning created in the panel itself. So people say, oh, I hadn't thought of that, or actually, that reminds me that this is what I do, or oh, what you say resonates with this. When you get that going, then you feel as though you've created something there and then for people to take away, everybody who's participating in that. So I enjoy the challenge of chairing panels as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that as well.
Oh, great. And I believe you're also chairing one of our webinars coming up in April.
Oh, yes, on wellness. Yes. Now I'm looking forward to that as well, because that's so important. That sits at the heart of what sits at the heart of ourselves, doesn't it? And it certainly sits at the heart of schools. I've got a great selection of people going to be talking about that. So I love doing that. I love bringing together different people to be able to share their perspectives and yes, that's just very soon. So yes, definitely looking forward to that.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah, I think it is exciting when you get those different point of views and you hear, like you say, as a listener to those conversations, like, oh, I didn't even think of that point of view or that perspective. And yeah, just flourishes. And, people always say at the end of a webinar, they're like, I could talk about this for hours more, because it just opens up such exciting conversation.
Indeed, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So my final question for you is, where do you see the future of education?
Such a big question. Yes. Right, yes. So how to answer that in a few seconds. Learning needs to be embedded at the heart of everything each of us does as individuals, as we do as communities, and as we do as wider societies. If it isn't embedded there, if we're not constantly learning, then we become we stagnate and we do not move forward in the way in which we need to move forward. There is a long way we have to go as human beings in order to be able to work together with one another in peace, productively, caring for the dignity of other human beings. There's so much we still have to do. So learning has to be embedded in all of that. So the goal of education, or where education needs to take us, is to make sure that happens. So that is something, again, that won't be done very quickly, but we can do it we can do it in tiny moments, we can do it on a large scale. That's what we're looking for. It goes way beyond assessment of any kind. It goes way beyond the outcomes of school, way beyond that. This is something about education, maybe education with a capital E, which should go throughout our entire lives. One of the things I've enjoyed and that my journey over the past few years has enabled me to do is to come into contact with so many people who are pushing the boundaries of education to make it more inclusive of everybody, to make sure that we are continuing to progress in education. And I love being involved in those discussions too. Just as a voice, as a catalyst, as a coach, all of those different bits. There's different parts to the role. Really enjoy doing that, and that's where we need to keep taking it. So it is a task that is not finished, will not be finished for a long time, but let's keep going. Let's keep going and working towards it.
Well, for such a big question, you answered that wonderfully. Really nice.
My pleasure.
Oh, so thank you so much, Dr. Helen, for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and we're really looking forward to seeing you at the GESS Leaders Summit in Saudi Arabia very soon. And for those of you who are listening who are leaders in education and want to attend, please contact us at marketing@gesseducation.com. But for now, take care.
Thanks for joining this week's GESScast. Make sure you visit our website, GESSeducation.com, the essential resource for educators, to subscribe to the podcast and to enjoy the latest education news.